Let's have a look at the Meike 50mm f1.4 4L mount camera. I'm Art and Art is Right. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. This is the Meike 50mm f1.2 and the one that I have is 4L mount camera. I'm using this on a Panasonic S1. However, if you have another mirrorless camera or even just any other type of camera mount, you can most likely find their lenses in the camera mount that you have. They make lenses for both still cameras like the one that I have here and also cine cameras. So if you're looking for a really great lens at an amazing price, Meike is definitely the one for you. However, here's the thing. If you're trying to search for Meike on Amazon, you're not going to find it under the Meike name. You're going to find it under the name called Meike. They're technically two of the same companies and you're going to get the exact same lens in the end. So this Meike lens and majority of lenses in their portfolio are manual focus. And the one thing that I'm never really a fan of is manual focus lenses because I never really think that DSLR are really designed for that. This is from 15 years of using a DSLR. The viewfinder is small. You gotta wait for that little green dot to show up when you have things in focus or not. It's hard to see. But on these mirrorless cameras, manual focusing is much easier because you're always looking through the big screen on the back or the EVF electronic viewfinder. When you do that, you can also use a camera function called focus peaking, which allows you to see the plane of focus exactly what you have focus on. This makes focusing on this f1.2 lens extremely easy. And it does bring back a lot of feelings from the manual film SLR days. I really like the construction of this lens. It's all aluminum, there's no CPU contact, no point of failure whatsoever, and the way how they have designed this lens is highly intentional. The aperture ring itself is a smooth change, so there's no click whatsoever. So if you're filming this and you need to change the aperture on the go, it is really awesome. It reminds me of the manual focus 4x5 camera lenses and the way how you can go in and just literally dial the aperture ring with no clicks whatsoever. And everything between the aperture ring and also the focus ring is a quarter turn, making trying to get focus super easy on this lens. The other thing too is that they also have designed different grooves on this lens. For instance, this groove right here, when you hold it, you know exactly that this is the aperture ring, and when you move your hand back to the focusing ring, you feel that there is a different texture on the aluminum. Therefore, you can actually grab this lens without actually having to pull the camera back, look at what rings you're grabbing. You can pretty much just do it from the viewfinder and see what exactly you're trying to focus on. Being that this is a lens, we have to talk about the optical quality. How do I feel this lens perform at the widest open f1.2? Some may say it's not the sharpest lens, but if you're only paying $360 for this lens, I think the optical performance is fantastic. If we look at this in relation to all the other native L mount lens, we start to go up to the Sigma, and that's $950. Granted, you do get the autofocus with that, but if you keep moving up the scale, for example, the Panasonic one, you're looking at a lens that costs $1,700. And if you go with Leica, an f2 is going to cost you $5,100 with an f1.4 running you close to $6,000. For $360, the fact that this lens can do aperture f1.2, I think this is absolutely a fantastic value. So another aspect of this lens that we have to talk about is pretty much the bokeh. What do I think about how this lens performs with out of focus areas when you're trying to photograph this at night or in low light situation and all those bright lights on the back? How does that look? I think that it looks okay. It's not the prettiest bokeh that I've seen, but again, if we look at the price point, I think that this lens performance is absolutely great. So a few more aspects about this lens I want to mention is that with regards to barrel distortion or any type distortion with this lens, for the most part it's very minimal, especially if you're just trying to photograph a scene like this. If you move close to a subject, you will see a little bit more barrel distortion. This is something to be expected out of a lens like this. And if we're talking about focus breathing, there is some focus breathing that happens, but if you're just, again, doing a scene wide shot like what I'm seeing here, it's not going to be such a big deal. One more thing I want to mention about a 50mm is that it forces you to really think and see a little bit differently. Personally, for me, a scene like this, I'll be capturing this with a 14mm lens to pretty much take everything in. But because this lens, I can't do that, what I have to do is focus on the little things in the scene, and this really trains your eye to think differently. One more tip that I want to give those of you who are using this lens, because this is a manual focus lens, if you have to do manual exposure too, it makes the shooting experience slow and grind it down to a halt. So what I have done with this lens is that when you mount the lens, it shows at f-stop 0.0 in the camera. I set the camera into aperture priority. And what I have done then is set the camera in addition to auto ISO, and you can set the range however you like. And pretty much what I can do now is literally point the camera, set the aperture on the lens itself at f1.2 and be able to shoot from the darkest condition to the lightest condition without any issues at all. So I hope that you find this Meike 50mm f1.2 review helpful. Questions or comment below, give this a like, subscribe and hit on the bell if you're new, and until next time, in art we trust.